Hello and good evening, everybody. And welcome to this 16th episode of our exciting webinar series. On behalf of SIGTUPL and everybody and the rest of the team out over here, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all our audience who've gathered here today to listen to another interesting session. So before I even introduce the speaker, let me just take a few minutes to talk about our products. As all of you know who have been here previously in our webinars and the new people who are here today, SIGTUPL is a company which combines optics, data science, as well as electronics and AI to create these wonderful solutions on an AI-based platform in pathology. We have the AI100 and the AS76. We also have the compact veterinary point of care. So these are a couple of the products which have been introduced into the market. And while we will be talking about these in different other sessions, let me not waste time and quickly introduce you to our exciting speaker for today, none other than Dr. Suneet Kaur herself. So she has had an illustrious career for more than 20 years and has combined exceptional clinical acumen as well as academic excellence. And she's here today to talk about digital transformation in hematopathology, where we are and what lies ahead. She is the director of the laboratory services of the South Zone, the lead head at Agilus Diagnostics, with contribution in the various departments of diagnostic histopathology, cytopathology, transplant, immunology, molecular testing. She also overlooks and contributes to the laboratory quality management and accreditation as well, and also responsible for clinical biochemistry, hematology automation, process optimization, technological integration, team mentorship, and training of pathologists. The list just goes on and on and on. So it's indeed a great privilege of mine and honor to have her here today. I've myself interacted with her for the past many months on the AI-based platforms and the digital pathology solutions that we have. And she comes across to be very committed, dedicated to her work, and again, shines with academic excellence, which you will see in her talk today. So without wasting any more time, over to you, Dr. Suneet. And here we are to listen to your invigorating session for today, Monday evening.
Thank you so much, Renu. At the outset, I would really like to thank you and the entire team of SIGTUPL for giving me this opportunity to speak on digital transformation in the field of hematopathology. I'll just share my screen. Whenever I meet any youngster or whenever I meet any new pathologist in my lab, I always tell them that we are living in some very exciting times because, with a career spanning more than 2 decades, the changes which we have seen in the recent past few years have surpassed the entire duration of our 20 plus year career. Digitalization, I feel, is not new to the field of pathology. We started with an era in the 1990s with semi-automated machines. We moved on to the 2000s, which were automated analyzers in hematology, starting from a 3-part, moving on to a 5-part differential count. And down the line, we saw the evolution of those automated analyzers. They had NRBCs were being given, the scatter plots, the multiple flags which keep coming with the analyzers. Somewhere around 2015, we saw the advent of digital scanners. People came up with scanners, so it was a simple technology. Scan the slide, and then it was like wherever you are, you can remotely access the images. And today, when we see where are we today, we are in a world of AI augmented review. I think I'm a great fan of that. And I think shared this thing with I think Suman as well as Dr. Renu, that the deep learning, the AI platform which we encountered 2 years back with SIGTUPL has changed the way we have started looking into hematology. So why digital transformation and why now? I feel that there has been, I mean, especially coming from a big lab, we get around samples which are maybe 600 or 700 plus in a day. So rising sample volumes because not only that there are a lot of patients who come for preventive checkups. A lot of these big hospitals, they cater to patients not only nationally but even international patients coming for showing in India because of the rising medical tourism. There's a lot of pressure for the turnaround times. The clinician expect the same day reports. They want a lot of decisions are based on the reports which we are releasing. There is a need for standardization of the reports. That's why it is very important. And last but not the least, we know that we are striving for uh, good number of doctors and definite and most of the time in corporate labs, we are always short of staff and there is always a shortage of hematopathologists. Not all are available all the time. So these are the reasons why, standardizing the protocols and coming with better digital platforms and solutions has become so pivotal in today's time. I think baseline, most of the labs which are medium and large size or very large size have this baseline systems already available with them. We have automated CBC analyzers. I think they started with the digital revolution, and as I told, I was just discussed with you the automated 5-part analyzers. I think most of the bigger labs have. Then, the barcode-driven sample tracking, the bidirectional LIS interfacing, which is available, the rule-based flagging engines like there's a flagging for a blast, flagging for nucleated RBC, flagging for atypical lymphocytes, and of course the digital reflex rules, like a reflex rule what we have in our machines. For example, if it's a low platelet, the machine flags it for an automated or a fluorescence platelet. If the machine feels that the CB the HB is very low, it automatically flags for a retic, automated retics. So many of these flags are already available. So this is the baseline automation, I think, which has already come up in many of the labs. So if you see that, so in most of the mature labs which we have in the bigger setups as of now today, 70 to 85% of the routine CBC, it goes automatically in auto mode without much of manual intervention in between. But there is a remaining 50 to 30% of these of the slides or the cases which are flagged for a smear review every day, almost every day, where a digital morphology and AI, I feel, can add the most value. So where are we today? So what is the current state of automation and digital adoption which is happening in hematology labs? So I can share you what is happening in my lab, in Agilus Labs in Fortis Banerghatta. Although we have Agilus Labs spread around 6 or 7 of our labs are there in Bangalore, but in Banerghatta we have the largest lab. So in our lab, when 2 years back, we thought that because of this huge burden of smears, so many of the smears which keep on undergoing flagging and they keep on popping up and say that please go for a smear review, please go for a smear review. We thought that why not go for some kind of an assistance from a AI based technology, which not which it's not supposed to give a diagnosis, but it is supposed to improve the precision of the hematologist, which is seeing the slide. So that time we came across this technology of Sictipal, and we have been consistently using it after that. So what we do now is that whichever slides they are flagged by our basic CBC analyzer, the cases which are for the which come from the chemo daycare, because chemo daycare, you have cell counts of sometimes hardly 50 cells or 100 cells. Uh, and then we have cases which are coming for regularly leukemia follow-ups or a lymphoma follow-ups or multiple myeloma follow-ups, cases which are having a very low platelet count, or sometimes cases which are from transplant point of view, those transplant cases, we prefer to scan all those images on our scanner, which is provided from the Sigtable platform. And we have integrated it in our digital reporting. And this is how we see the images. So I think Renu must be, can guide you better, but this is how we see the images which come up. We see on the left side, we get the complete differential, the cells which can be deciphered, not only from the neutrophil, lymphocyte, monocytes, eosinophil, basophils, but along with that, if there is any atypical cell or a blast that pops up in a separate window. If we have immature cells, they also come up in a separate window. So what happens is that whenever the cell counts are very low, like if the cell count is only 50 cells, because that is how we usually get in cases of severe cytopenias, aplastic anemias, or cases of ongoing chemotherapy. So that time it's very difficult to, it's time consuming. Basically, if you have a tray of 30 slides, it takes a lot of time to keep screening each and every slide. And there is a chance that the pathologist can miss some of those blasts or some cells which are lying in one corner of a slide. So to avoid that, we have incorporated this thing in our usual practice of pathology, of hematology. Also, sometimes I have seen that, uh, especially when we come across cases of uh, transplant cases, when the patient suffers from any hemolysis because of tacrolimus induce cell lysis. That time the nephrologist, they are specifically asking you to look for schistocytes, and sometimes there might be just one or two throughout the slide. So getting a clear scanned images of the RBC, and it's very easy to locate those one or two schistocytes in the slide. So I find it very useful. So I always encourage, and I have told everybody to incorporate that in the routine hematology practice. I'll just show you a few examples. So where this digitalization and AI we are using in our day-to-day practice. So currently, as I told you, if we have cases where the cell counts are very low, as I already told you, cases where either it is pancytopenia, cases which are like APML. APML can present with a very just a pure cytopenia, or sometime if there are follow-up cases of leukemias, you all know that very well. You keep on following them from maybe 60, 70 blast percentage to maybe up to a 1 or 2 blast percentage. So screening those cases on a regular basis. So I've just given an example of a patient presenting with fatigue and early bruising, and suppose the CBC shows you pancytopenia with a very low WBC count. So in those cases, a manual reviewer has very few leukocytes to work with, and sometimes there will be a handful of blasts. So there is where the technology of digitalization and AI comes very handy. And so the amount of stress the pathologist will have, in going through each and every cell, and wasting so much of time in a smear review, can be shortened with the help of AI. Then similarly, maybe platelet clumps. Sometimes we are seeing that many, especially the patients who come to us from Bengal side, they come up with very giant platelets. People who are seeing their smears regularly would know that the counts might be normal only, but the analyzers, they don't pick up those giant platelets as platelets, and you will get a spurious low count. And again, the issue of clumping, that is very common, when EDTA sometimes it triggers clumping in the platelets. So a doctor who is sitting, if he gets a scanned image, it's very easy to, to see those clumps or the giant platelets on a screen. And immediately they can, even in the middle of the night, if your technician tells you that we are seeing such kind of they scan the image for you, you can immediately see and go and rectify and tell the treating physician that no, this is not a true low platelet, but in fact it's a giant platelet or a clump. And you can reduce the anxiety of the not only the patient, the doctor, and avoid giving RDRPs during the middle of the night. An incidental malarial parasite, although you know that the BBMP is trying very hard to ensure that Bangalore is a malaria-free place, but still we keep on, since we have a lot of inflow of international patients who keep coming to India, they bring with them a lot of malaria. So we have seen a lot of patients from Africa who come with falciparum. And sometimes what happens is that if they are partly treated, it's very difficult to locate the parasites, on the smear. And as again, I told you, in the middle of the night or when your technician is alone, or if your doctor is, sing alone and, they have to screen so much of cases, your AI can help you there by picking up these cells which are having the plasmodium or the infected RBC as auto flagging. And this can always help your clinician to guide the treatment. And I told you before also, especially for microangiopathic hemolytic anemia workups, when you want to look exclusively for schistocytes, you can a patient, if your doctor tells, especially for I have, we have a big transplant program in our hospital, so we frequently come across this, that patients who are on tacrolimus, sometimes if they start developing hemolysis, we have to immediately, the physicians, they take the nephrologist has to take a call to change these cases over to everolimus or some other drug or a cyclo. So at that time, it becomes very imperative to tell them exactly what is the percentage of the cystocytes. So a falling hemoglobin, a falling platelet, and a rising LDH, when these kind of concerns are raised by your nephrologist or a physician, and it becomes very imperative to look for microangiopathic hemolytic anemia, a TTP, a DIC. So that time, it sometimes becomes difficult to screen for those 2, 3 schistocytes, in a manual smear when you have to see from one end to the other. And that time, I find it very handy to see those scanned images on on an iPad or a laptop or a computer screen, where it gives you the distinct fragmented schistocytes. So on the basis of ICSH grading, you can see those cells spread across. You can scan the RBC from one field to the other field, and you can look for these schistocytes and other fragmented cells before you call your nephrologist and tell them, yeah, that these are actually schistocytes and they are more than 1% or more than 2% or more than 3%. So that time also I feel that the digital images and they help a lot. Then, of course, another very tricky area which I feel that digital and AI assisted systems help us a lot are the reactive lymphocytes versus the blast. So, you know that especially nowadays, when you are seeing that there are so many cases of influenza and H1N1 and all the different kind of viral infections which are popping up day in and day out. We need to be very sure that we are dealing with reactive population of cells and not with the blast. Because, this is where it's a very keen area where uh, the hematologist or the treating people will like to ask you that, are we dealing with the blast? Because the patient's platelets have suddenly fallen. So platelets can even fall in a severe viral also. So digital images, what I have seen with SICTPL, they help us a lot to look into whether these cells are blasts or whether they are atypical lymphocytes. Sometimes even that the machine might trigger it. The digital systems might trigger you that maybe there are 4 to 5% of those atypical cells. So maybe the what we normally do in our practice is we go back to the slide and look into those particular areas where the cells are being mapped. And then we try to see again, whether they are really blast or they are atypical lymphocytes. So digital and AI systems have actually helped us a lot nowadays to diagnose these things and those fine lines where we see an atypical cell, an atypical lymphocyte overlapping with the blast kind of features. So at least we can immediately see on the scanner and tell that no, this is not a blast, but this is just an atypical lymphocyte. Maybe you can follow up the patient again after a few days once the viral symptoms are subsiding, and then maybe we can oversee again how the image finally looks like. So this is how we have tried to integrate the AI assisted module into our routine hematology practice. And what we have found out that incorporating this AI based and digital technology in our system, we reduced the turnaround time. So since already when even before the hematologist enters the lab, the slides are already screened by our technicians, and the uh, all the particular numbers, they will screen all the images. So when my hematologist comes to the lab, he already has all these images with him in a in an iPad or a laptop. And when they start seeing the images, they sit with the CBC printout from the machines and the slides and the inputs which are being already provided by the AI. So together, all the three, not only it helps them to review the smear faster, it improves the consistency. It's a more standardized way of looking at things. And also, suppose they want to go back and see, what was the smear like yesterday, what was the smear day before yesterday. All that the options are available in the cloud, and they can easily go back and see the slide again. So what I feel is that just like you have nowadays, the term precision oncology has become very popular in today's time. I feel even we should talk about now precision in every field, even precision in looking into even a peripheral smear as well. So what I feel is that this AI assisted software, what we have got now in the form of SICTPL, is pushing actually the landscape towards a precision based approach where the subjectivity is going down and more precision is coming into the day-to-day practice. I think this one article I took from one of their when we were started using it. This was something which I wanted to look into, and I found that when we use AI-based platforms, we are actually improving the detection of atypical cells and immature granulocytes and blasts compared to the manually what we are seeing. So definitely, digitalization and AI is rapidly changing and improving our precision and sensitivity and specificity day by day. Beyond the smear, where do you think the digital field in hematology is working? I think in the we have our flow cytometry machines, where maybe there is automated compensation, template-based gating for standard panels, software-assisted population identification to flag aberrant antigen expression for pathologist review, digital data export directly into the LIS linking reports. So all these things, consistent gating strategy to avoid, the manual intervention, definitely that is helping us. Again, HPLC, you all know that I think most of us who are working with in hemoglobinopathy with HPLC, we know that the software keeps auto flagging the peaks, giving us constant inputs about, this is the S window, this is the D window. And so structural digital results, which are getting exported, reducing the manual transcription errors, and retained digital trace supports for the second opinion review. Those kind of things are definitely changing our perspective in hematology. So what are the challenges we face with AI as well as digitalization? It's not that simple also. There are still some challenges when we adopt AI-enabled hematology techniques in our day-to-day practice. The most important thing is that uh, whenever we adopt any new technology, we have to adhere to ISO guidelines. So when we started with incorporating AI into our routine practice, the first thing we did was to go for extensive validation of the pattern of the thing. We went for at least 200 cases. We did validation. We validated not only our cases, what we got the information from the AI platform. We compared it to what our doctor, our hematologist did, and what the standard machines, which are the validated Sysmex, what we are using, what information it is giving. So after going for a very extensive validation for around 200 cases only, we started using it more frequently. And it's not only one time, we keep on monitoring the system performance review. We keep on doing it. We have our own audit logs and see that what AI is flagging versus what pathologist says that this is true, this is correct flagging or no. That is what we keep on doing it. And whenever there is, we have defined the scope of our usage. We don't use it for any autonomous release of reports. We are still taking, we stick to the pathologist review only. But definitely, as I told you, we are using it to improve the precision and improve the detection rate for screening purposes, for triaging purposes. We have still not, we still don't allow the machine to go for any autonomous result release. Also, whenever there is a change of control for any software or model, we keep updating it. And of course, staff competency assessment, which is specific to the AI assisted workflow, that also we keep updating. So what are the challenges and what I must say, the honest limitations of, incorporating this digital and AI thing in our routine practice? Validation, definitely, because with every analyzer, whenever you get, whether it is a digital or an AI-based thing, every new analyzer, you need to keep on doing a lot of validation before you put it to clinical use. There is a cost involved, definitely. And then, there is always a question of scalability. Sometimes companies come up with new challenges of licensing and, of the cloud storage and other things. Interpretation based, deep learning classification, confidence scores are not always intuitive. It's difficult sometimes to translate everything into clinical trust, so that takes time. Workforce adaptation, of course, you have to keep emphasizing to your staff. I mean, my staff is not something different. We keep on emphasizing them that, please stick to these protocols, follow these protocols. So that itself, keeping the staff motivated towards this itself is also a challenge. Data governance, patient image, data storage, retention, the privacy obligation, they keep growing with every digital archive. And of course, the regulatory ambiguity is always there because, still in India, all this AI specific regulatory pathways, it's still not that mature, it is still evolving. And I think as the system becomes more mature in India, we'll actually come to know what are the challenges which lie ahead. Uh, so this is what I understand till now. I mean, what we have in hematology, as far as what I have seen in my lab and what I have seen outside. I have heard a lot of other labs which are still programs, and they are started working on bone marrow scanning, bone marrow analysis. Like, till now it is very difficult to screen and to scan the bone marrow slide because of the because they're little thicker, the sections are thicker. So a lot of companies, as I know them, I think surely SIC Triple also might be working on that. So they are working on softwares which make the bone marrow screening also more more friendlier. uh, I think I was just going through the net and trying to find out that what are the emerging frontiers as far as the hematology is concerned. So I got these four things which are the mostly which might change our future as we go ahead. So one thing is that multi-omics convergence, where the morphology, the cell morphology will be integrated with the flow, immunophenotyping, and NGS variant calls unified into a single case view instead of, three separate reports. Although many times we give the CBC and the flow reports together, but I heard that, many companies are working on uh, that once the blast morphology is flagged, the machine can even, or the AI can auto suggest which is the relevant NGS panel which we can put rather than waiting for another order for an NGS. And mostly what we will be seeing sooner is a structured reporting aligned to the WHO ICC classification criteria, reducing the manual synthesis across modalities. So this will be much faster time to classify acute leukemias, where sometimes, even though we know that these are the sometimes in the peripheral smear, maybe if you are maybe 20 years old like me in this profession, there was a time when we used to see one rod and say, okay, this is an acute myeloid leukemia, please go ahead. But now there is a time when, without a flow report and without an NGS report, none of the medical oncologists, they would even like to touch a patient. So maybe the future, as I was reading, entails that many softwares are working on integrating these three models together. MRD monitoring after treatment, that is something which is, I think many of the companies have already started. So serial digital morphology, flow immunophenotyping, tracked over time to detect the measurable residual disease in leukemia follow-ups. So that will be, I think something which will be AI driven. Trend-based cytopenias alert, which I would really like to have. Although what we are doing in Agilus is that we don't not only give reports to the patient for the same day, we try to incorporate the 5 previous reports along with the report, so that the person who is seeing a report, the oncologist or a physician, can get an idea of the trend which is there in the report. But I think the AI will still, maybe trigger all these things in the software. Flags might come in a meaningful downward drift across serial samples before a value crosses a hard critical threshold. And of course, patient-specific baselines, like a longitudinal tracking, letting a lab flag abnormal for this patient even before the value is still inside a population reference range. That will be very, very useful in chronic hematological conditions where, suppose a patient is moving towards that particular shift or drift is happening. The hematologist will be already informed about that even when it is started to happen. So this is how I see that AI driven models can, help us in the future. uh, Maybe in predicting the trends, maybe in, uh, giving a heads up to the hematologist even before it happens. So, but so what could it add? The generative AI, automated reporting, a lot of information can be put up in a single report, which can make more sense for the, for the clinician. Maybe more everything together in a single report, uh, being more narrative and structured reports, which will, uh, help explaining the thing to the clinician and the patients also in a better way. But again, you have to be very careful that sometimes too much relying on the AI also might backfire, because certain things AI is also just taking things from the back end data. So without a pathologist intervention, uh, we should not allow the information to be passed on completely. So I don't see that the future, what I feel, the roadmap, what I feel for a lab adoption should be, uh, to access in the phase one, to have an access and a baseline of the current, the turnaround time, the flagging, the manual review burden, define the target use case first, that what all cases you want a CBC to reflect in a smear. After that, you should try to validate your systems, run paired manual versus digital comparison on a representative sample set, document your sensitivity, that how much would you like to rely on these AI driven softwares for your critical reporting. Then maybe integrate it with the middleware, because I think that is where most of the labs, we don't have that still in place. And because of the there is no clear guidelines, we still have not ventured into that zone, and we still want to rely mainly on the pathologist to give us the final answer. And after after expanding our scope and establishing clear cut validation and QA and competency assessment and validation, probably we should look into scaling these modules. So I feel the key takeaway for digitalization is that, automation is the baseline. We cannot still stick to the manual or semi-automated. We have to make sure that we should push our labs to go for complete automation. And governance is not optional. You have to ensure that you have to stick to the ISO guidelines. Whichever new digitalization or a AI you are trying to incorporate, please go for ISO or a CAP guideline, whichever is available for you. Do proper audit trails for that. AI can augment, it can help. It does not replace the need of a pathologist. Still, pathologists, they have always their upper hand, and AI is always there to, to guide. AI is there to, improve your precision, reduce the turnaround times, to improvise your, the efficient handling of the things. And I see the next biggest leap the future entails is, a convergence where everything is starting from the morphology, from flow and molecular data will come together in one integrated AI-assisted diagnostic picture. So that is where I see the future, and I feel that it won't take much time to to reach that point. Also, I see that maybe in next few couple of years we will be reaching that point. Uh, Thank you so much for your patient listening, and I'll be happy to answer any questions or participate in any discussion. Thank you, Renu, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Suneet. That was indeed a very lucid and a passionate presentation from your side. I enjoyed every bit of it, especially the way you spoke about the workflow optimization and the integration of the whole AI in your space and in your laboratory, the kind of flagging criteria, especially coming from a transplant background, and how important and accurate every little finding is, from an HB to a platelet count to looking at residual blasts, the early pointers which actually alert the clinician and the pathologist. I think these are things that we just cannot take for granted. And having an AI assistance only makes sense. And how beautifully you have spoken about adopting that in the workflow and milking that opportunity to use that advantage in your arena was really incredible. I absolutely loved listening to that. And the pointers which you mentioned about the turnaround time, which is again very important, whether
Yeah,
we are working in a setup like a corporate or any other standalone lab. I think that's a very important point to capture. And then of course nitty gritties of like schistocytes, again small things which the rarer cells which we tend to miss on a day to day, from dawn till dusk when we're looking under manual microscopy. It's sometimes only good to have a tool like this, which gives you a digital image and also gives you that alert, keeping us, on our toes, so that we don't really miss an important finding, whether it's a peripheral smear or any other pathological specimen which comes into the lab. And then it's all about the precision oncology, which you spoke about, and that cannot be just in a certain field. It could be even in a field like hematology today, which is relatively
exactly.
new compared to histopathology and other areas which have been going on for some time. But what's interesting, and where I mirror your kind of thoughts, is where I also look forward to the day when a lot of processes in the lab, whether it is peripheral blood smear interpretation, bone marrow interpretation, flow cytometry, molecular, NGS, all of that could come under one surveillance, where there could be kind of a computational pathology giving us
Exactly.
insights into it cumulatively rather than piecemeal, as you mentioned. That's something which I think the day is not too far, and something which even I definitely will look forward to. And last but not the least, the things that you mentioned about the trend-based cytopenias, I think Delta check is so important today. And the
Yes,
earlier alerts, especially when I think of APMLs and think of DIC, when you look at a falling platelet count, I think that's one
yes,
of the very early indicators of DIC, and I think you will agree that with me. And that's something which I think many times it just gets missed, that probably
yeah,
this patient is going into DIC. And if we had AI pointers for things like that, subtle things that we notice, and if there could
exactly.
be a cumulative delta check that can be showcased to the hematopathologist so that they can alert the clinicians well before we have a crisis management, on our plate. And of course, the measurable residual disease and the longitudinal tracking that you spoke about, these are some things which definitely I have kept note as well. While we take our solutions forward in SIGTUPL, it'll be a great feedback to give back to the team. So thoroughly enjoyed your presentation, Dr. Suneet. Thank you so much, and it was really an honor to have you here. But I leave the floor to the audience so that if anybody has a question, do feel free to engage. I'm sure Dr. Suneet would love to hear any kind of questions or suggestions from your side as well. You may also write your questions in the chat in case if you do not want to have a question on on the speaker. We will look into the chat and we'll be happy to tell Dr. Suneet about your question. So we have Dr. Arivarsan who has complimented on your presentation, Dr. Suneet, that it was a very nice class. Thank you, Dr. Arivarsan. Do you have any verbal feedback or any question? We'd be happy to have that as well. or anyone else from the audience. It could be some kind of an experience you had in your practice with digital, whether you mirror certain things, what we have spoken about today, or if there's something new that you'd like to ask about or point out that you have seen in your experience, we'd be happy to have that as well. I think Dr. Sunit also gave a very lucid discussion on how you can do the validations and track that, especially when you're adopting any AI solution in your practice. And I think that's very important. You have best practices mentioned in the archives of medicine. You have the NABL also has come up with their own criterias of adoption of AI in practice today, especially in hematology very recently. So I would also like to insist that you all go through those guidelines, the universal guidelines, the WHO, and the other ones also, which Dr. Sunit mentioned, while you're adopting AI solutions in your practice. They go a very long way in actually refining things and bringing out the best of it while you are adopting AI and digital. So, Dr. Sunit, I had a question. So, how do you motivate your junior pathologists to adopt AI? And that's a burning question across places, right? Like wherever we go, how do we motivate the newer generation or the junior pathologists? How do you get them excited to use a tool like AI in your
See,
personal
I think I told Suman also, I think when I met her some time back, that I am an avid fan of AI.
experience? Right.
And especially when it comes to, see, we as pathologists, I think we are somehow loners, we like to, as
Right.
doctors, we like to sit in our own space.
Right.
And, the slide becomes our world. And
That's true.
when instead of looking, and when something, if you can replicate on a screen, and you start seeing those cells in front of you, so I feel it enhances the way you look at things. And as I told you, the best part, I always tell my whoever joins my section in hematology, I first get them hooked onto that. I keep telling them, that you should see it as a tool, as an assisted tool to
Mhm.
improve your practice.
True.
See it as your friend. Not that, it's not going to replace you anyway.
Right.
So many people think, when it came to the lab for the first time, many were like, oh, so you won't be hiring anybody there. I said, no, it's not like that. Sometimes you have to understand that every human has a limitation. We are,
Absolutely.
after all, humans, we have limitation. If I have 30 slides in front of me and I have to release all the reports by 9:30 in the morning before a clinician comes on a round, and
Right.
the cell count is like 20, 30, the to overall count
Mhm.
in a slide, how much effort can you put, It puts a lot of stress on everybody. So I think in my lab, in fact, if the machine is down for few days, they keep pestering me, ma'am, why it is down. So
Right.
it's the other way around. I mean, you are telling me like what you told me, it's the other way around for me.
That's so good to
So,
hear. And that's a
yeah,
first,
so
and then it's incredible to hear this.
I mean, my staff has, my pathologists, my juniors, they love it. And they feel that, sometimes as humans, as I told you, we might miss one cell lying in a corner. And at least, it gives us a heads up. Even though it might not be a blast, sometimes the machine might trigger
True.
that, okay, there is 2% blast. We know this patient, we go back to the history and see that, this patient is not of any leukemia or nothing like that.
True.
But the machine has raised a suspicion. The scanner has raised a suspicion. The AI is telling, prompting us. So let's
Mhm.
go back to the slide and see, are we missing something? And then, of course, based on your discretion, you can say, oh no, this looks more of an atypical cell and not a blast. Let's see the next slide, which comes after 24 hours.
True. True.
So, I mean, I didn't see any resistance with my staff. I think they just love it, and we have incorporated it in our daily practice, and we, in fact, have become, it's like a synergy. So
Great.
it's very fruitful. It has proved to be very, useful to us. And as I told you, being without it is a much bigger trouble to us rather than being with it.
Right, Dr. Sunit. That's so lovely to hear that. And if I may add one more a point to that, I think it really obviates the need to be physically available next to your microscope. And I think for pathologists in general, that's a very big boon today. There's sometimes
Yeah,
I think when we are off, our on the way back home, we've almost reached home, and then you get that one
yeah,
important case where you need to look at a platelet count, or
true.
you're looking at blasts, and then what do you do when you do not have an image in
Exactly,
front of
yeah.
you?
When your technician is alone and they want, although as I told you that we are not promoting any automated release of any report.
Right,
We want the pathologist to go back and look at the slide, whether they see it digitally and again maybe next day physically. Because ultimately I think as we were discussing that AI has not gone to that maturity level in India where
right,
we take up any onus like that. But yeah, it gives us a lot of leverage to us when the staff is alone or they want us to have another opinion,
right.
or they want us to go back and check that in case of critical cases. So
Hmm.
definitely it helps us, gives us a lot of opportunity to just see on our laptops or open our screens anywhere and just gives a
Right,
heads up to the technical staff and to the
right,
doctor that, oh, it looks like that. uh, Possibly you don't have to worry, or this is what we are thinking.
right. So many advantages of AI as you're seeing in practice today, or just having digital pathology. And I think as pathologists, it's high time we came out into the frontiers as well, from being behind in the curtains. And I think adopting technology, getting automation into the laboratory practice, and with AI, I think we would definitely be able to achieve that and have a more smarter lifestyle in our offices. So we have Janice Javier, who has also commented. Very informative talk, Dr. Sunit. Thank you. I want to ask if the manual positive slides are required to be kept or stored for a certain period of time, even though the images are being stored in the automated digital tool. That's a
Uh,
question, Dr. Sunit.
yeah. So, I mean, hi, Janice. The problem with us is that we have a very busy lab. I get around maybe 700-800 slides per day. So we keep them for at least like 15 days, the cases which are relevant to us. At the same time, we keep them in the cloud as well. So yeah, but sometimes, for regulatory purposes, especially if the patient wants to go somewhere, second opinion or something, and especially for malaria cases, we do keep the slides. Malaria, we keep it for all the time, because sometimes our regulatory authorities here come and they review the slides. Sometimes for patients of leukemias or positive malignancies, we do keep the slide. But otherwise, we don't keep it we keep it only for 15 days as is. But cloud, it remains stored.
We have another question. Thank you, Dr. Sunit, for that answer. And I hope that was informative, Janice. And we have another question by Mridula Sanathanandan. Very informative session, Dr. Sunit. Are you doing it for blood parasites as well?
So we do it for all the cases of low, as I told you, for low platelets and blood parasites. I mean, incidentally, we do for a majority of many cases which come with abnormal findings. So definitely we do pick blood parasites as well. But specifically, if you say that are you doing it all for the parasites, I'll not say yes. But most of them will come with some abnormal findings. So we do end up scanning all those cases.
Thank you. So, Dr. Mridula, I hope that answers your question. Anybody else? I think there are no more questions from the audience. Thank you so much, Dr. Sunit, for all the motivation that you could have provided us today. And I'm going to call this a motivational Monday, one of the best that has ever been. And we will be definitely hosting more webinars like this in the future. We thank Dr. Sunit again on behalf of SIGTUPL. And as all of you know, SIGTUPL is an AI-based company which combines optics, robotics, and AI to create digital solutions in pathology. Thank you, each and every one of you, for being here today, this evening. And we will look forward to having all of you again in the next session shortly. Thank you, Dr. Sunit, and wishing you a very good evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling me. Thank you.
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody, and have a great
Bye.
evening.
Bye.